So another question here for Peter. Chrissy says, my question for Peter is whether it's unusual or uncommon for cults to sue in this manner as WMS has sued ex-members. Also, are their tactics in court unusual?
It's a two-part question. Is it unusual for them to sue? For many cults, it is not unusual. Many cults are just litigious by nature when their view of how they attract and keep members requires them to keep a tight grip on what their members are saying. And are the tactics in court unusual? Interestingly enough, as a general matter, the tactics are not unusual, because I often find myself referring to the cult playbook. And the truth is that many cults use sort of the same general approach to how to mount a litigation. That's when they are the plaintiffs suing members rather than defending themselves because they are being sued by members. But as a general matter, if a cult has money, and many of them have a lot of money because they're basically sapping the lifeblood out of their members, if they have a lot of money, the general tactic is to make the litigation as complicated and as drawn out and as expensive as possible, on the theory that individual members simply are not going to be able to fight them. And most individual members don't have the money to fight them themselves, and in most cases, they find it hard to find lawyers who are familiar enough with cult litigation to be willing to represent them on what's called a contingency basis, where and when you're a defendant, there can't be a contingency only works when you're the plaintiff, when you're trying to get money from the cult. When you're a defendant, there ain't no money. There's only the possibility of losing money, and finding lawyers who are willing to defend you in that situation is not only hard, it's by and large impossible. So a lot of this is unfortunately the way a lot of cults operate and the approach that they take. Although, I think it's fair to say that by comparison to some of the cults that I have fought, WMS is right up there with NXIVM in terms of their willingness to make it as complicated and as difficult and as expensive as possible. In the case of WMS, their money comes from an international source of funding from their members. In the case of NXIVM, to some degree, it was international. They had a very big operation in Mexico, but most of their funding came from the fact that Claire Bronfman and her sister, who are, the Seagram's heiresses and worth hundreds of millions, were funding their litigation. And Claire is now also convicted, along with Raniere, and is now in prison somewhere in, I think North Carolina or something. Not for 120 years like Keith, but she's in the slammer. And that's largely due to her willing participation in a lot of the egregious stuff that NXIVM did. So, as I say, the approach is wear them down, get them to shut up, or they're going to be very sorry.